Happy Wednesday, guys. Today we are going to finish off our notes about the passive voice by talking about the future perfect and the pluperfect. So let's go ahead and get started. Your worksheet looks like this. So you've got some notes to begin with and then some practice to do as well. I'm going to be doing about half that practice with you as well. So don't feel too overwhelmed. All right, so just like when we talked about the perfect tense for the passive, we started off by showing you again what the active looked like, which is something we learned earlier this year. I'm going to be doing the same thing with the future perfect and pluperfect. So this is the review. This is what you've already learned about the pluperfect. It uses the third principal part. Remember, every verb has a number of principal parts. Most of them have about four. The third one, if you go to the third principal part, cut off the I, you've got the stem. You're going to add these endings. Eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. You've got notes with this. You've seen this before. The translation is had blanked. Somebody had blanked. All right. One of the reasons I like to show you the active first is because the passive is so similar. I don't want you to go back and think, hey, I think I already learned this. You already know the endings, spoiler alert, but the way to get there changed a little bit, okay? So for the passive voice, our new voice, the thing we're learning right now, this is going to be a two-word form, just like we had with our perfect tense on Monday, right? The perfect tense and the pluperfect and the future perfect all use two words. That fourth principal part is the first word. You have a space, and you're going to add these endings. These endings are identical to the previous slide. Eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. And as we all know, you use be, being, or been to make something sound passive. So the translation here adds the word been. Had been blanky d. Had been blanky d. Here's an example. Did not show up in the order I thought it would. I apologize. But the active voice, right, is going to use that third principal part. It's noticeable in this word we're having a V in it, petit oui, right? I took off the I and I added eramus. We had attacked. To make it passive, I went to the fourth principal part, petitus, and because eramus is plural, I changed that us to an I, petiti eramus. We had been attacked. So you can see, same ending, different principal part. The active is one word, the passive is two words. All right, let's talk about the future. This is the future perfect tense. It just says future here, but this is future perfect. All right, we're going to go just as before. This is for the active voice, taking off that I from the third principal part and adding these endings. Again, you learned these earlier this year. Ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritus, erint. Those are your endings. The translation is will have blanky D. Will have blanky D. Okay, so that's the old news. Now for the new version. This is the future perfect passive. Just as the last two forms we've learned, it is two words. It uses that fourth principal part. And the second word are these endings. I highlighted one of these in green because it's the only one that's different from the earlier slide. Make sure to note this change of vowel. When it is altogether one word, when it is a true ending on the word, it's erint, E-R-I-N-T. But here for the passive, when it stands on its own, when it's its own word, E-R-U-N-T is correct. You're always going to have your notes out, so don't stress about this too much, but make sure that you copy it down correctly. All right, translation will have been, ed. Remember, be, being, or been makes something passive. This is just to remind you, this is the exact same slide from the previous note set that we did. The fourth principal part acts like an adjective, so that ending on the fourth principal part will change according to what the subject is. If the subject is singular, us is correct. If it is plural, then I is correct. But also, these words can go with subjects that are feminine or neuter. And in that case, you have to change those endings. They're going to look like they're noun endings, honestly. First declension, A-E. Second declension, neuter, U-M or A. And my note down here just reminds you that Latin always prefers the masculine. We learn it in the masculine. My examples will be in the masculine. You are free to switch it up whenever you want. It's important that you know this to be able to identify these forms in translations, but for the most part, when you're forming them, Masculine is just fine. All right, let's do some practice. Per usual, I'm going to include that passive notes roundup with the addition of these extra slides. And actually, I think I'm going to give you just this whole slide presentation. So it has the active as well as the passive, so you can have that available for yourself when you take these notes. Now, this first part here says we're going to be, for these verbs, we're going to be doing an active full synopsis and a passive full synopsis. This is when we're going to conjugate the whole thing. Notice that those forms do not say something like first plural or third plural or anything like that, right? Instead, what they say are pluperfect active, and they give you the verb and meaning. I want you just to practice your full conjugation, okay, for this. It's going to tell you exactly what I want from you on here, and I'm going to do this first one for you. For the pluperfect active, to go back to my notes, pluperfect. I'm going to use the third principal part, cut off the I, add those endings. Third principal part here is portavi or paravi, excuse me. Paravi, right? Take off that I, add these endings. Paraveram, right? And I'm just going to do some, which I recommend you do too. A little copy and paste action here. Eros, erat, eramos, eratus, and erant. Oops, I didn't do my copy and paste first. E-R-A-N-T. Here we go. All right, very good. And the translations for these, I had prepared. And for my copy and paste here, the had prepared part is going to stay the same. You had prepared. He, you can say he, she, it, had prepared. We had prepared. Y'all had prepared. And they had prepared. All right. For this one, this is the pluperfect passive. Notice for the pluperfect passive, we're not going to use the third principal part anymore. We're going to use the fourth principal part. It's going to be a two-word form. What's nice about this one is that the endings are still the same. The translation will be had been blank UD. All right, fourth principal part here is paratus. And check it out. I'm actually just going to do some creative copy and paste here. I can do that in all of the boxes. And I only have to adjust the ones on the right-hand side. Those are the plural ones. So according to our rules, where the plurals change from US to I do a little I action there. All right, great. So for the first person singular, what's awesome is that the endings are the same on both charts. Paratus eram, paratus eras, paratus erat, parati, oops, parati eramus, parati eratis, and parati erant. Awesome. The translation is I had been prepared. And again, I can do my little creative copy and paste here. You had been prepared. He had been prepared. We had been prepared. Sorry, wild clicking here. Y'all had been prepared. And they had been prepared. All right, I did the pluperfect for both of these, right? I'd like you to do the future perfect. It's a different verb, but you're going to follow the same process. Do that future perfect, right? Okay. The second page has a full synopsis, a full snapshot, and this one does tell you person and number, right? You're going to need all your notes for this, and I'm going to give you that same notes roundup as before. Your second one, the one that you'll do solo, people are going to have different ones. Feel free to ask a classmate, right? Like, how do I do